What's up guys, my name is Che and welcome back yourselves to the Enchanted Forest. Now in today's episode we're going to make a couple of adjustments to what I've already done. Now here I decided I wanted to add kind of like an archway. I felt as though it wasn't really suiting the look of the park for just it having just this kind of these two buildings, and I felt to make it a little bit more kind of what's the word, you know, castle-y, whatever you want to call that, I felt I needed to add an archway here. Now, I am still utterly terrible at building, bearing in mind, okay? So, you know, bear with me when it comes to building this. I'm not the speediest builder, I'm not Silverette, I'm not any of the other guys that build these kinds of things. This is kind of like me just playing around, really. And it's really good fun. I'm actually really enjoying it. So in today's episode, we do carry on here building the well, I build the archway, evidently, because I'm now basically done. Although, finding these little stilt things and trying to get them into the right place took me a millennia. I mean, it looks like I'm doing it really quickly, but this is sped up by, like, considerably. This was like an hour video onto the sake of... This is at least sped up times 3. So this one here was just doing my head in. We managed to get it nonetheless. Now, I'm thinking of I might put something on top of this. What I would put on there, I don't know. I'm unsure. Maybe a guard or something like that. You get these couple of guard guys you can put on there. And there's a lot of these nice little plaque things I can chuck on. And of course, has to be a king because, you know, it's the Enchanted Forest and all that kind of jazz. Now, turning my sights over to the village. Okay, now, there's still a lot that I need to do. There's still a lot of space here for this village to be, you know, to be made and to be kind of changed and done and done whatever with. Now, I don't want to fill it with just houses because in these kind of old school, old-timey, you know, back in the day kind of villages, you never really had just a chock-a-block of houses like they do nowadays. It's all kind of like dotted all over the joint and to look relatively good. Now, me personally, I hate those benches, but they're the only ones that kind of suit the village look. That don't just have kind of like a normal bench, which is maddeningly annoying. There are no normal benches. Do like the sword and the stone there, might I add though. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to have in these, and I'm thinking of trying to fill these gaps with kind of like trees, and just kind of decoration really, to make them just look a little bit more pleasing to the eye, so it's not just flat, kind of boring, just village things everywhere. Now this is obviously the village fete that's going on at the moment. Come on down. It's like £3 entry. You know, there's archery here. You've got stuff you can buy. All kinds of stuff. So it's worth going. There's fruit there as well. No one works there, so that's even better. You can just kind of stroll in and do whatever you want to do and then piss off again. But ultimately, it's worth going to. But we are trying to flesh this kind of whole area out. Now, we've got some eateries here. We've got some bits and bobs where you can eat from. So you want to be able to, you know, people want to be able to sit down when they eat. People want to be able to sit down and you know, and admire the surroundings. Now, I'm trying to make this sort of fill out a little bit more to try and just make it so it's not just this kind of boring flat land like I was saying earlier. And I'm trying to think of things that can happen here. Now, inside here, just thought of a really good idea. I could kind of draw a pathway. I started doing that later on. I started using the different terrain stuff to actually kind of form pathways to make it look like people have actually been using it. And that's one thing I could do. I'm probably going to forget by the next time I go on this, but pathways. Remind me, okay, guys? Remind me in the comments below. Stick a pathway in somewhere in the village fete. That's what I'm doing. Go to the village fete and we're putting a pathway down. I'm going to light it as well because, you know, you don't want to be doing archery in the dark. It's not very easy. I'm not going to lie. Not very easy. So I wouldn't recommend that. But we're going to be planning, obviously, to go on to do the different parts of the park. We're going to have a witch's grotto kind of somewhere, lost in the woods, where your little, you know, the winding path that goes down there. With probably a ride there to actually get people to go down there for some reason. Otherwise, people just kind of wander and they don't really go down there. They tend to go to stuff that's actually relevant, as opposed to just, you know, aimlessly wandering just for the sake of having a look at something. Although, I did notice earlier on, I noticed at the end of this video, that the rides now have a scenery percentage kind of thing, which basically states like how interesting the whole ride is to look at as well, which is really cool. I did not know this was a thing until literally about 15 minutes ago, if that. Pushing maybe 10, but I did not know there was an actual thing there where you could, you know, it judged you based on the scenery of that particular area, which I thought was brilliant. That's such a damn good idea. Freaking hell, Frontier, what is your problem? You're so good at this. Oh, it's just awesome. But I am now deciding I want to build something. Now, I've not built anything yet except from an archway, which wasn't particularly very eventful, but I want to build something else. And that's what I'm turning my sights to. Now, I'm going to chuck just another one of these down just to kind of fill out the, you know, the space a little bit. But, you know, whatever. Trying to figure out still where everything is, because I still can't find half the crap which is in this game. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. I can't find half of the stuff which is listed on this game that I see people building with. I'm just like, how do you know where this stuff is? They're just kind of scrolling and boom, there it is. I'm just going to stick this here and it's going to look awesome without him even really trying. But, you know, whatever. So we're going to build ourselves a nice big building. Now, to me, this is kind of like... It's kind of like the village hall kind of thing, like the town hall. I don't know who comes from villages and who don't, but I come from a very, very small village of like 1,000 people, if that. When I was there was probably about 1,000 people there. So it's not very big. The village itself is tiny, and it's right in the middle of nowhere. So, although it doesn't look like this, it's not like one of these weird fairy tale villages where everyone's house is a stupid colour. But there are houses with thatched roofs and stuff like that. So, I like to think I'm a bit of a non-expert in this kind of field of thatched roofery. Although, I've also realised now that I'm watching this back that I've also forgotten to put walls behind those little woodeny what's there. So I will have to do that because the house is going to get flipping freezing in the winter. So I need to make sure I do that. For me, I actually found this quite difficult trying to come up with what I could do for this because I'm just building this on the fly. I've kind of got no plans to it. I'm just thinking, right, I want a big building which looks interesting and is kind of, you know, cool to look at and it's kind of like a village hall kind of thing. So that's what we're going for. The village hall was always the place where it was like the meeting place of the village. You know, you had your village meetings there and all the, you know, the posh. You had the village meetings at the village hall and all this kind of crap. God, I've still realised there's actually other stuff I need to do to that building, which I'm going to have to do on the next episode. There's things I need to change, which I've just realised while I'm watching this back and stuff like that. Because it's different when you're doing it. You don't really notice it as you're going along. But I've decided I'm going to use this kind of like two-pronged archway dealy what's-its to try and flesh this out. And I was trying to get this to pull across and to go all the way up, but I couldn't figure it out. So I gave up and decided, screw it, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave that for the time being and we'll come back and do something else with it. But I need to try and make this the detail on this. And the villages, they have a lot of these kind of like thatched houses. Obviously have loads of these extra beams and stuff as support kind of dotted all over the place. So I'm thinking I'm going to have probably a little extra bit here. Trying to figure out what door I want to have though first. Try and make sure we'll go for the double door. Now obviously it's a village hall, so we want to be able to get in. We want multiple people to be able to get in at any one time, which will obviously really help. Now I really liked that there, but it wasn't big enough, and that one was just too big and too ridiculous. That just took too much room. So I opted just for the small kind of little overhangy what's-it over the door, which was nice. So I've got the shape. This is the kind of shape that I want to use now. Like I was saying, village halls are they're just big buildings in villages where stuff happens. So it's like where if you had like a village committee or whatever, they'd all go there, and it's kind of the meeting place. It's kind of the place you'd go, like all the old people would go on like a Saturday or Sunday morning to go and have their cup of tea and a cake or whatever. Which, by the way, sounds freaking awesome. So if I come across a village hall which do tea and cake Mondays or Sundays, I'm going. I will have that tea and that cake because I enjoy tea, which I haven't got right now, which I'm actually a little bit depressed about now. And I could also have a cake. I would go for a cake right now, or a donut, something along those lines. Go to Nando's later. Go for a cheeky Nando's. That should be pretty fun. God, cheeky Nando's, I love that term. It's so funny because no one actually knows what it means. Not even the people in the UK who basically invented the word the cheeky Nando's actually knows what it means. It's like a meaningless thing and people get really confused. It's hilarious. But I digress on Nando's bollocks. I need to talk about that. So here we go. We're back again. I'm back now. I'm going to be talking about stuff that's actually relevant. And we're going to add on these kind of support things around the building. Just a bit of detail, really. A bit of detailing on the outside. You find that these houses, they need it. These kind of village houses need this extra detailing on because otherwise it just looks blank and bare and it doesn't really look very good. And it's something that you need to... that's one thing I always think about when I play this game. I'm no expert at it, but I always think like things need stuff on them for them to look realistic. Otherwise it just becomes boring and stupid. So... that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm trying to make it a bit more realistic. Now, I'm not the greatest of building, as I keep saying, scenery and stuff like that either. So that's something I'm going to have to try and practice a little bit more. We're trying to come up with how to build these little funky scenery things to make them just look a little more interesting. Because sometimes you look at it and you're like, I like it, but at the same time, you know, I don't. So it's quite difficult to come up with a good idea sometimes where you just sit there and you kind of blank canvas and thinking, that is a really big door. And you're thinking to yourself, not quite sure what to build here, not quite sure what to build there, yada yada yada. But you know, you stick to it, and you'll eventually come up with something that you want to do. So we're not doing too bad on this building. I'm just adding these windows to try and. I mean, these buildings, they always have like these weird kind of quirky things about them. They're like the window would stick out like an unnecessary amount and all this kind of stuff. So that's what I'm trying to build into these. I'm trying to add, you know, have some kind of character to the building by having these windows that kind of stick out and these slight differences and these quirks about it, because they're always different and they have the weirdest like sense of style on them, because they just don't make sense. You look at them and you're like, this is just a weird building. Why does this building exist? It doesn't really make any sense. It was back in the day where people didn't really care about like symmetry and design and all that kind of stuff. It was primarily like, right, does this building kind of do what it's supposed to do? Which is yes. And there we go. That's pretty much it when it comes to building these old country kind of like cottage things. It's just kind of like, does it serve a purpose? And does it look alright? Yeah, it looks fine. Alright, that'll do then. We'll just leave it as that. So, it's primarily what most of the buildings in countryside kind of is, because there's no real, like, design features. It's not... It doesn't... Well... Yeah, it doesn't really need to be aesthetically pleasing all that much. You get some kind of boring looking houses and some kind of really drab, horrible looking things, and you think to yourself, why would anyone build that? Like nowadays, you think, why would you build that? That does not look good. What possible reason have you made this thing in this particular shape? Because it just looks like ass. Specifically, those houses which have got like gravel like stuck to the side of them. It's just like, what honest to God idiot came up with that? What is it called? It's like, oh, I can't remember what it's called, but it just basically looks like someone's like cemented the side of the building and then just turned up with just like a bag of gravel and just kind of gone, ugh, thrown it at the building and gone, that'll do, look at that, just sorted that one, you know, excess gravel, chuck it at the building, sorted. So yeah, I don't really like that kind of style, and I hate them. It's very kind of like, it's like 70s, 80s, 90s, early 90s kind of buildings, where they just have this horrible gravelly just kind of crap on the outside, and it's just sort of like, what are you doing? What possessed you to do that? Honestly, what made you think, I'm just going to chuck this on the side because it looks pretty good? No, it doesn't. It looks horrible. Go away. Basically, go away. Not you guys. I'd like you to stay because you were brilliant. So yeah, we've really done the house. The house is almost complete. The actual basics thing of it is done. I'm thinking I want to kind of add a garden. I'm going to use these railings. These are a nice little kind of railing for just kind of like a fence, really. That's one thing that I'm kind of annoyed about this game at the moment. There aren't any fences in it. There's not just anything you can just add and just kind of line the roads with, or the pathways, because you have to kind of all do it yourself. But now, obviously, you can make your own, but it's a ball ache. You just want to have kind of just some fancy-looking fences to stick down instead of having to make your own fences. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making your own fences, of course. It's more creative, it's more fun to do that way. But sometimes you think, right, I just want a basic fence that I can just snap to the side of the pathway, a bit like the benches do now. So hopefully, when it's released, we'll get something like that. So, you know, hopefully that happens. Now, I have been actually talking to Frontier, which is freaking awesome. I've chatted to one of the guys over email the other day, and hopefully we'll have a chat about something at some point, and I will put that as a suggestion. Can we please have fences or something just to add in it? So we're adding ivy. We're ivying the place up now to make it just look a little bit better, to make it look a bit more, you know, kind of lived in, I suppose. It also breaks up a lot of the space you've got on these. I mean, this particular colour is this kind of yellowy, kind of manky, dead kind of colour, but it adds in it and it brings in a bit more, you know, it takes up some of the space, really, because otherwise it just looks too flat and too kind of unlived in. And the whole point of these things is they're old-fashioned and lived in. So that's what we're doing. We're just ivying the place up, and a lot of these places tend to have a lot of ivy on them. They just do. It's just countryside. Ivy just takes over everything. It's just a dick. One of them plants is just a pain in the ass to manage, because it's just like, I'm going to stick to this and then kill it, and by sucking all of its water out, and then I will also die. Some ivy is stupid. Some ivy is very, very stupid. It's just that's how it goes, unfortunately. So we're almost done here with this house. I'm just trying to finish off this garden, trying to figure out what I can have in it. Just one of the knickknacks, really. Just, you know, you put a lot of effort into building these scenery things, and realistically, no one actually ever sees it. It's just kind of there. Here we go. This is where I'm actually using something to try and make kind of like a path kind of look, where it looks like it's been walked on and used, which is something that I've kind of clasped onto doing and will continue to do now. Now that I can remember, and now that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. I can actually add these paths, and it looks a lot better. It just looks more like it's been used, which obviously helps because it's a village, and villages which are lived in obviously are used. So that's fun. But anyway, moving on. Hat's fantastic. We're just trying to jazz up the old Hat's fantastic a little bit. But that's kind of what we're doing for the rest of this episode, is just jazzing up this kind of area. Pretty sure I build a ride, actually. We do build a ride in a minute, so don't worry. There is a ride involved in this one, guys. That's what I'm going to try and do in each video, is try and build at least one ride. And then we'll have one video which will be dedicated to kind of building some kind of roller coaster somewhere. I'm not sure where that's going to go yet. I think it's going to have to go around one of the edges, because until I've done the castle and stuff like that, then I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with roller coasters. I don't want to obviously jump straight in and get the castle finished, because I'm going to, want this series to last a bit longer, because I'm really enjoying doing this. It's just good fun. It's nice to just take an hour or two out and just kind of do this, because obviously I'll record it for an hour and then I have to record the chat, this voiceover, which is what, about 20 minutes. So all in all, it'll take about an hour and a half to 2 hours just to record one of these, which is fine. It's just enjoyable. It's just something different to do. We've got the old pathway back in there again now, so people know that there's definitely villagers here. We just can't see them. They're just always indoors and not really using the place, or I'm using it as storage or something else. So we're putting this thing down, the cube. The cube. Now, I'm guessing this thing kind of spins around at all weird angles. I'm pretty sure there's one of these in Parkitect, which is where I recognise it from. So I do have Parkitect as well, guys, which is another brilliant game. If you really like the old school Roller Coaster Tycoon, then I recommend you get Parkitect. But we're nearly done. We're nearly done. So we've just got these last little bits to do. I couldn't really quite remember, but we're using the kind of the royal red as the pathways for these little separate things. Now we're going to try and close this off. Now we don't really want to be able to see this too much when we're walking in. So I'm just trying to close this off a little bit more, using the old foliage, the old trees, especially these ones. These sycamores are brilliant for covering stuff up, because they're very thick. These trees are very, very thick trees. So we're just chucking a load down just to try and get rid of the this. And we're going to line the back here with some rocks, just because, I don't know, I actually quite like how these rocks look when you line stuff with them. It has this really deep, kind of dark colouring to them, and it's just interesting. I just find there's something different to look at. Just something a little bit different for the whole area in general, because, line with these rocks. Sometimes you see these things, you see them on beaches, places people line the rocks. Obviously, that's just to help with the water and all that, but a lot of theme parks just like using rocks just because they're, there's no management to them, really. You have to do anything to them. You just kind of leave them. If someone has a poo on one, then you clean it. That's about it, really. But so we're just going to line the back as well, just to have it a little bit nicer, really, because I find that I really like these bushes. I'm pretty sure I said this in the previous one. Those flat bushes are just really useful, just for fleshing out areas and just covering stuff up. Because otherwise, it just you get this typical kind of grassy look and this sort of boring kind of esque to the area. Now, obviously, this is the Enchanted Forest. There's going to be a lot of trees. Okay, so expect there to be a lot of trees in this area because, well, it's a forest and it's been built in the forest. There we go. Look, Q something quality. There's a Q quality menu now, which is really cool. I did not know that was a thing. I thought that was a really good idea. That kind of, it doesn't force you into making it, but it makes you think about it, at least, to the point of where you think, right, well, I need to come up with something for this, because otherwise this queue's going to look boring. I'm not really sure what to do. So I am trying to find something to do here, but I don't want to cover this up too much, because then it covers up the ride. So people who'll be walking past won't actually see the ride. So for the time being, we're just going for kind of a rockery with just, some planters and some lights, the usual stuff really, and a couple of flat bushes and things like that, just to bring the area out a little bit. That's one thing I do need to look up a little bit more, just different stuff I can build inside these to try and make them just look a little bit nicer, just make them a little bit more, I don't know, original and just sort of different, because you often find eventually it starts to just kind of look the same. That's not a problem. If you're going for a theme, then that's fair enough, but all in all, you want it to look a little bit better. So that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. We built this ride. We've fleshed out the village a little bit more. That's another thing I need to continue on, just to fill in these gaps. But we do chuck down another eatery here, and I believe I chuck a toilet in somewhere at some point. I just find that these spaces, they just need filling up. They just need some stuff going into them, and I can't always come up with a decent building to build, so sometimes I use the pre-made ones. We'll be looking onto the Steam Workshop shortly to see if there's anything on there which I can chuck on, which would be cool. If I do use anything on there, I'll obviously link it from the Steam Workshop. I'll put the links down below, but so far I've not used anything, but we'll have a look. So yeah, all I can really do now, guys, is say thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you do enjoy this. I hope you are enjoying this series, in fact. If you are, don't forget to give us a good old like rating and a comment as well, and subscribe if you've not already subscribed for more of the Enchanted Forest. And yeah, I'm just going to say goodbye now because I'm pretty much done. So I will see you soon, guys. And if you did enjoy this, like I said, don't forget to give us a good old-fashioned like rating. And I will see you when I see you. When I see you, which will be the next episode. So enjoy the rest of the video, guys, which is about another 10 seconds. Goodbye. Still, my presence is barely tolerated here. His hand reaches to his weapon. Offer to help. The warrior's outraged. It slaps me hard across the face. Ow! You dick! What's your problem, biatch? Whatever. Has decreased. Screw you.